Hey, welcome everyone. Today, more than ever, the world needs voices that spark change, ignite hope, and drive transformation. Change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when individuals choose to step forward, speak up, and take bold action. Whether you're leading a global movement or making a difference in your own community, your voice has power. In this podcast, we aim to amplify those voices, share the journeys of resilient change makers, and inspire each of you to recognize your potential to impact the world. Let's create a ripple effect. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host, Al Richards, and today we're going to be talking about codependency with our lovely guest, Brooke. So, Brooke, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Thank you, Al. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's great to have you, and gosh, we only met, I guess, like a month ago or so, and
Ah,
I you were very vulnerable, and I really respected that and appreciated that because you opened up and you started talking about all the stuff that's been going on in your life in the past and all the things that you have seen, and I was just like, my gosh, this woman is amazing because she's literally getting it out there and sharing it instead of holding it in, and I really just appreciate it. It's what had you come up with the title of the show of the codependency?
well, 7 months ago, I had gone through some stuff, and I found myself on the internet searching up families of addicts group, right? This is something that I've been wanting to find for years and years and years. And I found a group through Ardu. It's based out of Provo, Utah. It's a recovery, like a rehab. And immediately, Sweet Drew, he is the director over there, he got on to the little chat and said, "Hey, we're having a class tonight. If you would like to join, you're more than welcome." And I did. And I went to the class not knowing really what to expect. I took my mom with me and we sat at this table and they just talked to us about codependency and what that means. And I realized that I am very codependent and it's just something that I've really tried to figure out the last 7 months, 8 months. So, yeah,
And good for you for recognizing it, because in all honesty, I think I was there for at one time in my life as well, pretty codependent on my ex-wife. And
yeah.
I think we get so caught up with different things. We don't realize that these gears are starting to mesh and it's taking us away from different things.
Years and years of this. I come from a long line of addicts, and yeah, it's something that people, I don't think people realize how codependent they are until it's kind of put in their faces and they're kind of forced to be like, oh, I am. And that in itself is part of addiction, right? That
Yeah.
in itself is part of it. So if you can try your best to, heal and figure that out, that, you have a really high chance of, overcoming that and trying to help.
Yeah. So while you've been figuring this out, if you don't mind sharing, so with your past relationships, basically you were just kind of really counting on that individual to kind of help keep you going and keep you in the right direction. Was it what it is? Or I know for me was just knowing I had somebody by my side, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem being alone. I don't want to be alone, but I don't have a problem
Right.
being alone. However, I think that's what was keeping me also stuck in a very toxic relationship.
Oh, for sure. Right. I went through a divorce 8 years ago. I had been married for 15 years, three babies. Um, Being single is hard, right? And meeting somebody. I met somebody about almost 2 years ago that had been clean for 5 years. And, you know, having my brother as an addict, right, for years and years, I kind of knew, but I don't know because I'm not an addict myself. I have only been a family member of an addict. And so when I met this person, uh, he had been clean for a long period of time. And I thought, this is it. This is love. This is fate, and um, head over heels in love with this person. And about 3 months in, found out that he was using. And at that point, I had, fallen in love and wanted to stick by him, right? You don't want to leave that person in the ditch, right? You don't want to leave them when they need somebody the most. That's my way of thinking. That was my way of thinking. So I wanted to help them through it as much as I could. But in the process of that, I was hurting myself. I was so intertwined in trying to save someone or to help save them, right? That I was ignoring things in my life, right? My kids, my grandbaby, my life, to try to help somebody else. And it got to the point that I just, I couldn't do that anymore. So yeah, and that's when I found the our Do Families of Addicts group. It was right after the breakup, and I'm gradually, little by little, learning. I'm still stuck in that. I'm still stuck in it, thinking that I can save people or that I can help them. And I don't want to, I don't want to leave them in the ditch. I don't want to leave them in the midst of their struggle. That's been a really hard thing to get out of. I'm having a hard time with that part of it, though, just trying to, leave them behind in a sense. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's not the, I don't know if that's not the right way to think, but that's how my brain works, like I feel like I'm leaving them and in the midst of their struggle. And I'm learning how to get out of that.
Well, good for you for doing that. And Brooke, it takes time. It really does take time because I'm still pretty much on that same journey too. And I've been working on it a little longer than you. However, I'm still I'm still figuring things out. You have, for what I know of you, the short time we've spent together and got to know each other, you have a big heart. You have a soft heart. You
Yeah.
care about other individuals. That's something that's inside you. That's just you. That's a God-given gift that God
And,
has given you.
yeah.
And to to feel like you're giving up on a person who the only way their help will come is within themselves, because I found that out with my ex. And I think you and I shared a little bit of this at this event you and I went to about a week
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah.
and it's hard. And, I'm not ashamed to say, man, I've broke down and cried many, many times just going, my gosh, why isn't there anything I can fricking do to help this person? Why isn't it? And I don't know how many times people have come to me going, who have been and lived through it, go, there's nothing. It has
Yeah.
to be done through them.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have kind of traveled a little bit of the same path, but not the full path. And it's very difficult to throw in the towel, keep your boundaries,
Yeah.
look out for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. This goes back to, my long life with addiction. My dad was an alcoholic from the time that I was born. He passed away in 2011 of complications due to alcoholism. Um, I have had two brothers that have been addicts. I think that's where that codependency comes from, right? Is just trying to be the big sister be the oldest daughter, right? That has her shit together and, and just try to save them. And you can't do that. So it's
Mm.
hard to get out of, especially for somebody like you and I, right? Like we just have, I want to say we have big hearts. I don't want to say that I have a big heart, but I feel, I've been told that I do. And it's hard to just let people do their own thing. And their choices are going to be their choices. And I can't let that affect me the way that it has for the
Yeah.
last 40, 41 years.
Yeah.
So,
And being on the other side, just so because we don't get a lot of guests who are on the other side of the addiction. Uh,
right.
and it drags us down that same damn rabbit hole. I mean,
Yeah.
I almost felt like all those years I stood by my ex-wife's 8, 9 years of it, whatever it was, that I was actually the alcoholic too, because that's what my life revolved around. And
Yes.
yeah, it goes back again to that codependency, doing our best to help an individual who doesn't want to be helped. It's very, very tough on us on the other side, and it takes us through a ringer.
Yeah. Walking on eggshells, right? Because you don't want to be the cause of them going back to using, right? Or their relapse, or making them sad or upset or hurt or angry because you feel that that could cause them to relapse or to go out and use again. We can't live like that. We have to be able to share our feelings and not be afraid to, tell them what they're doing and how they're affecting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be really hard. It's a tough sitch.
Well, and even doing that, right? Even doing that triggers it
Yeah,
because then they feel shameful
yeah,
because of what they've done to you. I mean, my ex told me quite a few times because I would ask, I'm like, why? I don't get it. Why are you going through this? And she's like, well, I'll stay sober. But then I start thinking of all the mean things that I said to you and what I've put you through. Then I start feeling ashamed. And then pretty
yeah,
soon I realize I don't want to feel ashamed anymore. So I go back to the bottle just to turn around and do the exact same thing to you that I'm shameful about, just to start the whole process all over again. And I used to tell her too, I'm like, I don't want to blame it all on you because I'd jump on that damn hamster wheel with you every
mhm,
single freaking time. When I told myself I wasn't, it
yeah.
was so easy to jump right back on it. Did you find yourself in that same scenario?
All the time, all the time. Even still, going to my group sabbatics class, right? And meeting somebody like you do, you jump right back into that. It's like I live in chaos, or I lived in chaos, and like you get addicted to the chaos,
Mm,
and it's hard to get out of that. Yeah, like I've really tried to educate myself on addiction and recovery, and I am by no means, by no means an expert. I feel like I've grown a lot and I've learned a lot. I still need to learn a lot more for sure, but just not jumping back on that damn hamster wheel, right? With them. It's so hard not to do that because you love them and you want to try to help take care of them and show them how wonderful they are and how smart they are and how talented they are. But you can't make them see that. They have to see that themselves, you know?
yeah, 100%. Did you find yourself in that victim mentality mode
Oh,
during
yeah.
all this and possibly still doing it?
And still, I've learned about that, right? I've been talked to about that. Kale at our do, he is um, he's the director that put that families of addicts group together. Him and Drew and Todd and Elisa. Um, yeah, he has really taught us about the victim mentality, right? And I had no idea what that meant. But yeah, I'm not the victim, but it's hard not to go into that mentality, right? Like, oh my God, this is what they did to me. This is what it's caused me to do. And it's hard to come out of that, even still, you know? Like, but you put yourself in that situation. You're my situation. I stayed with somebody that kept hurting me, right? Kept hurting me. That's his fault, right? But that's also my fault. I didn't have to stay in that situation. And same with, my brother or my dad. I I don't have to put myself in those situations where people are hurting me. So it's kind of a thing, right? Like yes and no. I do, but I don't.
Yeah, because that's something I did for years, for a very long time, and actually finally started breaking away from it back in January of 2023 because of Dave. You and I both know Dave from Tosa, and he basically pointed his finger in my face and told me, you know, basically where to shit in the woods or how to
Oh
shit
my
in
God.
the woods. And he did it with a loving heart, that's for sure.
I've never I've seen that side of Dave, but not much. But yes,
Yeah.
it's really hard with Kale. A couple weeks ago, I was in my group and he came into the class just to talk to me. So that was awesome. But we joke, I got kaled, right? He's like, Dave, he doesn't sugarcoat, he'll tell you what is happening and what you're allowing to happen. And this is your situation to get out of. You don't have to stay in a situation where you're hurting and you're stressed, you're not eating, you're not sleeping, you don't want to go home because that person is there. Like you don't have to live that way. But yes, it is hard to hear that, especially from somebody like Dave or Kale, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to hear, but we need to hear it.
Oh, absolutely. And I respect him very, very
Oh,
much so for doing that because, in my eyes, that is a true friend.
yeah,
Somebody who voices their opinion and they don't do it to hurt you. And
no,
and too many of us out there, and I've done it myself in the past. Thank goodness I have grown and learned. We take it personal, and it's not personal. It's
no.
somebody who loves us and cares about us and really throwing it at us in a way to wake us up. It's almost like that slap in the face, right? To go
Yeah,
wake the F up.
wake up. You do
Yeah.
not this way. You're choosing to live this way.
Hmm.
But then it goes back into like how sweet we are, right? Like we don't want to see anyone hurt and we don't want to be the cause of anything. And oh my gosh, it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. I don't know how it is for you. Um, all the AA meetings that I went to support, and I kept hearing this word boundaries.
Yeah.
And you'd hear someone get up and share their story and they'd talk about boundaries. The next person would get up, share their story. They talked about boundaries. When my ex was going through recovery centers and then coming back out, she's like, okay, I've got these boundaries. I heard that word so many flipping times.
Yeah.
I was really slow figuring it out because the boundaries, I thought you were the same way. Thanks for making me feel good.
Yeah.
I thought those boundaries was just for them.
Right.
It took me, oh my gosh, all the way till almost where she went the 2.5 years sober to
Yeah.
where it finally dawned on me. And I think it was somebody that told me, you have boundaries too that you can set. And I'm like, oh my gosh, seriously.
I
Boom,
know.
the light bulb went off.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know. I mean, I had heard the word boundaries, for years with my little brother's addiction. But when I started going to this, I keep talking about this group, but it's changed me. It's helped me so much with my life and just, not there's nothing wrong with me. There's hundreds and thousands of people that go through this, not being an addict myself, but having loved ones that have gone through it and are going through it. Um, yeah, I didn't know much about boundaries until this class. And that's when I had the ding ding moment too, that we can have boundaries. We should have boundaries and we need to stick to those boundaries. It's so hard though. Oh,
Yes, that is the tough one right there, is sticking to it.
yeah,
Because everything else is just a threat.
yeah,
It's just a threat. I threatened to divorce her for 8, 9 years. Well,
right,
probably after the fourth or fifth time of me saying that, I mean,
yeah.
she even told me, I don't know, I think it was, I don't even remember how long ago it was. And I got pissed. I was really angry. And I mentioned that. And she flat ass looked at me and she goes, no, you're not. You haven't done it yet.
Right,
And I
right.
was like, holy shit, she's right.
She is right. She was right. And I mean, several times that happened to me, right? Like, get the hell out of here. Oh, but you don't have anywhere to go, so you can come stay with me until you find a place to go, or I'll come get you and take you to your PO meeting, or you know, they know that they have that hold on you, because we're not strong with our boundaries. And when we are, then we're the meanest humans on earth, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
We may be the meanest, but I tell you what, that's when our love really shows.
oh, for sure. I know that now. I know that now. And you're not doing anything by not sticking to your boundaries. You're helping them stay sick.
Yeah.
You are helping them stay sick. And that's been a really hard thing with my family and I, right? With my little brother's addiction, with sticking to our boundaries and letting him know. Right now he's been I think he's 7 months clean right now. So
Oh,
that's but before then, I know that's great. Um Only a few months before he started to get clean this last time, where we able to be like, no, you're not going to come here, you're not going to live here, you're not going to be around my grandbaby. um you're not, we're not going to do this. So it was really hard to stick to that because I love him more than anything. I love him. And but at the same time, like, my grandbaby is just this innocent little guy that does not need any of this stuff around him.
yeah.
So that helped, right? Just to stick to the boundary. And it worked. I mean, ish. Yeah.
Well, we have to look at it this way, and maybe not for everyone, but at least it is for me. It's these baby steps, right? So, um, reverse the roles. If I'm the addict and I'm working on getting myself clean, I have to take each day at a time, each step at a time, as long as I'm moving forward. It takes that process for us to finally get to a certain point where jumping on that horse is just a little bit easier than it was before. And I
Right.
believe it's the same for us on the other side. Because again, we lived in that life, that chaos, that misery. We became addicted to it, which you said earlier, for so long. It's going to take that process for us to get to where we separate ourselves from it a lot further. And yes, it's still going to draw us back because that's just how it works.
Yeah.
However, we're a little bit stronger to where it doesn't pull us all the way.
Yeah.
And at least that's what I have found for myself. And I tell you what, the days that I have done that, man, literally, I've broken down and just lost it. I've broken down and just bawled. I have gone outside and I've punched things, just to get this frustration out of me going, I know I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm doing the right thing. However, like you said, it still doesn't make it easy.
No, no, it doesn't make it easy. In fact, I'm getting a little teary-eyed because it is so hard. It's really hard to stick to that, because you know what they're going through, and you know that it's just this sadness and shame that they feel. And it's so hard to just, not that we turn our backs, because we don't turn our backs. But we have to learn to let go a little bit and let them do their own thing, because we can't get them better. They get better on their own. So, but yes, it's so hard to feel that way. There's been times where, there was a time I dropped my little brother off up in, at this house in Salt Lake, and um I drove away, right? I drove away because that's where he needed to go. And then he called me a couple minutes later, and to tell me that to come back and get him, right? Because he needed to go somewhere else. And I just let the phone ring. And he called me a few times, all the way from Salt Lake City to where I live here in American Fork. The phone just kept ringing. And I knew it was him. And I knew that he needed me. And I didn't turn around. And I cried, right? I cried the whole way home. It's like even now, right? Like I'm getting teary eyed just thinking about that. Like it's hard. It's hard to just to do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I did that, all the way home, did the same thing as you.
Yeah.
I really thought the last I saw, I was so mad. I got out, I threw her suitcase on the side of the road because I took her up to the LDS emergency center for detox. She was so hammered. I was so upset. I got out, threw her bag on the lawn, helped her get out of the vehicle because she was so wasted. She couldn't get out of the vehicle. And I just said, good luck. And I got back in the car and I looked in the rearview mirror, and literally I had the feeling that this was going to be the last time I was going to see her alive,
Yeah.
because that's how intoxicated she was. And again, I just did the same thing as you. I bawled all the way home,
Yeah.
and not knowing if she was going to make it or not. And
Hmm.
this is the hard part for our listeners who are in recovery. I know this is also hard for you guys to listen to, because I've had a lot of people on the show and people that I've talked to in person say, man, I had no clue I was doing this to my family. They all think that they're just hurting themselves. And of course, I was told that many times by my ex. It's like, what is it hurting you for? I'm the one that's doing all the damage. And it's like, open your damn eyes.
Yeah.
However, it's really tough. And I can't imagine, Brooke, for us, it was father, spouse, brother. Can you imagine if it was your child
Oh,
to have to put up those boundaries and to push them to the side to protect you? And my gosh, I had somebody call me once who they're in Idaho, and a friend referred me, and she got a hold of me, and she's telling me about her son, and her son's does the rodeo and lives in Wyoming, and she's talking about his alcoholism, and I just had to be blunt. I just had to be blunt and just say, look, I was still pretty green at that time, and I'm like, this is a different sandbox.
yeah.
I don't know if I want to step in this sandbox, because this is your child. With a spouse, it's not easy, but I would think it's a little bit easier compared to if it was. I mean, if one of my daughters battled or your daughter battled, can you imagine having to keep these boundaries?
No, no. And it just goes back to, my brother's addiction and my mom. My mom, she's been a single mother since I was 3 years old, right? My little brother and sister were tiny. Um, Trying to, being a single mom and raising these kids, three naughty kids, by the way, um, by herself. And, my little brother being the only boy and loving him as much as she loves him, watching him do this to himself. It was probably one of the hardest things as like the big sister, right? Having to watch as your mom trying to help him and to set boundaries with him. Horrifying. I can't even imagine being a parent and having to do those things. I mean, it's hard enough trying to be like a girlfriend or a sister, but as a mama or a dad, I can't even imagine what she's had to go through and continues to go through. Yes, Colt's been clean for 7 months, but yeah, it's hard and it's hard for her. So I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I couldn't either. That's why I just shared just a little bit and said, yeah, I really don't want to say anything more because I think it was a little bit different. And maybe you do handle it the same way. However, it's just hard for me. It was hard for me to go in that direction.
Oh, right, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
So while you've been in these relationships and you were still pretty well, you were still pretty young even when your father um was battling his addiction, but
Yeah.
did you find yourself another word that comes up too, which I didn't realize us on the other side have, and that's the triggers. There was certain actions, or if I heard one little teeny slur of a word, my gosh, I was like fly on shit. I was right there going, you're drinking, or
No,
start accusing.
I don't know if that's ever been brought to my attention, like how you just said it, but yes. Yeah. Being, yeah. I mean, my dad didn't try to hide his alcoholism. He never ever tried to hide it. He didn't tell us that he wasn't drinking. He didn't tell us that he was sober. Um, we never, but, every day, every single day, when 5 o'clock came around, we knew not to pick up the phone because he'd be calling. Either he'd be really mad and angry, or he'd be just super loving and sweet just to tell us that he loved us, right? But we never knew. So we just never, I mean, we did. We still picked up the phone, which a lot of times I regret that. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but I
Well,
guess
with the
just
triggers, how certain things would trigger you.
yeah. Even still, um, I don't know. I can't really explain it. Just even still, like being in a relationship with somebody that's using, you know, the their demeanor, the look in their face, their eyes, a certain smell, a certain way that they walk, or anything, right?
Yeah.
You're just like you're constantly just watching and waiting for them to prove that they're using, you
Yeah.
know? And it's nowhere, it's not a good place to be. It's not a good way to live. I don't want to live like that. And that's where it comes to us, trying to get out of that situation where we need to love ourselves more so. We don't deserve to live that way,
No.
you know?
Even when my ex was in really, I don't know, even 5, 6, 7 months into her sobriety, I was still watching for every little thing. Like
Yeah.
if she had to get up and she's like, I got to go to the restroom, I always made sure that her
Uh,
purse wasn't going with her because her purse always went with her. And if it did, I knew there was something in the purse, right? Or just
yeah.
one little, even teeny little slur of a word. It doesn't matter what word it was. If I heard a little slur, then I was like, as soon as her back was turned, I'm checking her purse. I'm looking under pillows. I'm tearing the house apart because I'm going, she's drinking, she's drinking.
Yes. Yes. Being with a man, right? The purse situation was not really a
Yeah,
thing.
that's true.
That was harder. That was hard for me, because that person would go spend a lot of time in the bathroom. Um, and I was always one, they need their privacy, you know. Um, and but then when they would come out of the bathroom, right, I would be like, just like looking at their eyes, depending on how they used one of the person that I was with. smoked. And so there would be soot, black soot, in certain areas of the bathroom.
Hmm.
So I was constantly checking that, right? Making sure that there were no marks on the light switches or the doors. And that goes back to when my brother was using too, like that's how we could really find out if he was really using, would be those types of situations. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to live like that.
Yeah, most definitely. So where do you see yourself at now? You've been on this journey, and thank goodness for, I just want to say even thank you to Ardu and their family support group, and even USARA. They have a craft family support group
Yeah.
which I took, and I wish I would have known about that a long ways into the addiction, because I found out about it right at the end.
Yeah, we've talked about that I remember 20 years ago thinking like, oh my gosh, it would be so wonderful if there was a place where family members could go to just talk about it and try to heal. But yeah, I'm so thankful for Ardu. Elisa, she she's such a sweetheart. And everybody at Ardu and everybody outside of, there's so much support within the recovery community, even if you're not an addict or a recovering addict, right? There's so much support for these families.
Yeah, a lot more than what there used to be, because
Yeah.
the only one that I knew about was Al-Anon.
Yeah.
And again, and my listeners have heard me say this on the show many times. I'm not a fan of it. It's not a fit for me. It's
Yeah.
helped lots and lots of people, and I'm so grateful that it has helped individuals. It just wasn't a fit for me, because to me, at least the group I went to, I didn't feel like that support was there, because I walked in angry and I would walk out more pissed than I was than when I walked in, because there wasn't anything that I felt I could use to help me. It was more of bitch and moan, bitch and moan, bitch and moan, bitch and moan, bitch and moan. And I'm like, I'm already doing that at home. Why do I
Yeah.
want to go somewhere and be surrounded with 15 other people that are doing the exact same thing?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't think all our do me or Al-Anon meetings are that way. However, at least the one that I went to was.
Yeah.
So to have, I know when I did the craft was really cool, because they gave us a book and we would read a chapter
Yeah.
and would read half of it, and half of it is the scenarios that's going on in our lives, right? Probably the same thing you and I have gone through, because I remember reading it going, oh my hell, that's my life. That's exactly my life, even though the characters are different. And then the next week would do the next chapter, and it's how to handle things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, really, this is so easy. However, it's so effing hard.
So I'm going to put up this book really quick.
Okay.
It's a codependency guide to the 12 steps, right? This is the book that we kind of go off of in our do.
Okay.
We don't typically ever get to that point where we're reading it, because we're constantly checking in when we get there. Each one goes, like, we go through our check-in process, and that usually takes the whole hour and a half, because we've always got so much stuff going on. But yeah, like there's just different chapters on how to overcome and acknowledge like what you're doing, and how to stop it, or how to try to train your brain to get away from that. So yeah, I think the group is great to go to, and groups for anybody, like people, like I said, people that are not addicts or in recovery. It is good for us to, like, read books and be around people that are uplifting and can try to help us out of our situations that we're in.
Yeah. Well, they say the opposite of addiction is connection. And I
Yeah.
believe that goes with the family members on the other side of the addiction as well. It's the connection. We have to have that connection with the right individuals, because we
You.
we need that support too, and oof, the emotions come up so much, because, and I've shared this in my public speaking and different things like that, but my life to the point in 2019 where I was on my way home from a networking event to go get my pistol and go up in the mountains and take my life because I could not handle coming home to the BS that I was coming home to every single day. If I had a support group, or even those in recovery have sponsors,
Yeah.
none of us have sponsors.
No.
What if we had a sponsor, right? What if we had a sponsor that we could call where I could call you up, Brooke, and go, Brooke, man, I'm struggling. Oh my hell, I'm struggling so hard today. I don't know which direction to go. I'm really having a hard time dealing with this. I feel like doing something stupid, to be able to call somebody to go, hey, chill, let's relax. You want to go get some coffee, or, let's have a conversation over the phone and, share a little bit more and get these emotions out. Because I don't know if it was for you. However, I know it was for me. I was ashamed to share what was going on in my family life.
Oh, oh,
So
for sure.
ashamed because I didn't want to be
Oh,
judged and I didn't want anybody to judge her.
right.
And so we hold all this shit inside of us and it eats us up like an effing cancer and it starts
Yeah.
just devouring us. I mean, it's
Oh,
almost like we're imploding, right?
well,
It's
like you know, I, when I was in the relationship that I was in, not eating, not sleeping, it was a whole separate life. I was living this life over here where I'm trying to take care of this person, but yet my family is over here and I had to keep them separate, right? And yeah, it drives you crazy. It hurts your soul. It makes you crazy. It makes you sick.
yeah,
Like literally sick.
literally sick. Yeah, because you have
Literally.
to play two different characters, right? Because I would go to a networking group and I've always been known that when I walk into a room, it's like Al's here, right? Because I got this energy and I'm going around, I'm hugging everybody and I'm uplifting. And it was crazy because I found myself leaving these events and being totally, totally exhausted.
Yeah.
And I started thinking there was something wrong with me. I was starting to think, man, maybe I need to go to the doctor and have my heart checked or something because why am I so exhausted? Then when I finally opened up,
Mm-hmm.
people started coming up to me going, that's what's wrong with you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? They're like, Al, many of us have noticed you're not you. And I'm like, no, I was being me. And they're
Oh,
like, no, we could read through it. We could read that you were going through something. You was doing everything you could to hide it. We just couldn't figure out what it
yeah.
was.
Yeah. Well, it's shame, it's you you don't want anyone thinking that you could be with somebody like that, right? Or that you would put other people lower and put that person up, right? You don't want anybody thinking that you want everybody to think that you're okay. Like you're such a strong woman, Brooke. Like you're a single mom. You've you've been through so much in your life and you've dealt with so much. Like you don't want anybody thinking anything different. And by telling people that you're actually with somebody like that, it's not a very pleasant thing to know because they you deserve better and they know you deserve better. Like they're your loved ones. They love you more than anything and they don't want to see you hurting yourself. And yeah, it's hard to get out of for sure.
Yeah. So at your point in your life now, right now, you're
Yeah.
starting to feel that this Ardu family group is really starting to help you. You're starting to, I don't know, find a new Brooke, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I have, well, it's been 7 months, so it's not been that long, but I do feel like I'm a different person. I do want to educate myself more so in addiction and recovery and be able to help certain individuals in a healthy way. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think it's helped me a lot. My family have, they've made comments about, the things that I've learned and the things that I talk about to be, um, more in a positive light and, teaching, not teaching, but, helping my mom realize the shit that we've been in for the last 22 years is not healthy and that we can change it. And so that's kind of cool, and having my kids, my kids, my 24-year-old, my 20-year-old, and my 15-year-old look at me and say, Mom, I'm proud of you. Like you've gone through a lot and you're doing good and I'm proud of you. And, educating yourself and educating other people and going to these events and meeting these wonderful people like you, Al, like they're proud of me for it. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
man, doesn't that just warm your heart when my daughter told me she was proud of me,
Oh, yes.
Cal? Yeah. That just melded me.
Yeah. My kids have seen a lot and they've done a lot. They've seen a lot in the last, you know, however 24 years since Michaela's been born with my dad and my brother and different boyfriends that I've had and different friends. And yeah, it's been kind of a cool experience to have them be smart and educated and not use drugs, right? Or drink. And I've just been open and honest with them since the day they were born. Like this this can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor or you come from a broken home or you don't come from a broken home. Like this can happen to you. And just know that it can happen to you. So be good, make good
Uh,
choices.
Addiction doesn't discriminate. That's for damn sure.
Not, no, it
Yeah.
does not. And I didn't know that. I thought, coming from a broken home, coming from, my dad being an alcoholic our whole lives and my older brother Brandon being an addict for a long time. And I just thought this is like what happens in broken homes, right? Like you're not, you don't have good friends, you're alone all the time. No, that's not it at all. I mean, I work where I work and there are people that come in that have millions and thousands of, millions of dollars and they've got a son that's an addict, right? They come from a Mormon family. They've got a child as an addict. So it doesn't discriminate.
Definitely doesn't discriminate. Where do you see yourself going here in the future? Do you see yourself? I know when you and I talked, and I guess that's why I'm asking this question. When you and I spoke, really, I think for one of the first times, you mentioned that you just like to get more involved. Is that kind of what you're still seeing as wanting to get more involved in the recovery community?
Yeah. I've been wanting, I mean, yeah, I, when you just feel in your soul what your purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I've always felt with addiction and recovery, right? Just being a part of the community, right? And helping and yeah, going to that event that the sobriety event at the Marriott that night. Oh my gosh, it warmed my heart so much. Like all that money that was being donated to help people in recovery and to help with the sober living situation. Susan Peterson, amazing woman,
Yes, I concur.
beautiful soul. Yeah. I just, I mean, I had known for a long time, but just sitting there at that table at that moment and just, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I think that it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, and the individuals that we have the opportunity to meet
Yeah.
and associate with, in my eyes, are
Yeah.
the most amazing, individuals I've ever met in my life, and
Ab-
uplifting.
the truth, the truth. I met Randall Carlisle that night, and such a, such a beautiful soul, and dozens of others. They have they have this light. They have a light, and I can, well, we can see it. We all see it. I think they're amazing. I think people in general are amazing.
Yeah,
They are. And ones that are in recovery or even in addiction, they have this, they have a light, and you can see it. You can see the potential. And
yeah,
I would love to just, be a part of that.
yeah. Many individuals who I now call friends,
Yeah.
with them not probably even knowing it, but they've been my psychiatrist and my therapist for many
Oh,
years. And it's for having them on the show like yourself. Even some of the things that you've shared with me has also put some light bulbs on, going, huh, maybe I need to look at it differently or whatever. And those are the best people to learn from, who have walked the walk.
yeah. That's what I've learned by listening to your podcast, like even by knowing you or any of the people that I've associated with, like they know what they're doing because they've been through it. You can't, people that don't know, right?
Mhm.
Tell you all that all they want is, that how it is, but until you've actually gone through it and are able to tell people what you've gone through, you know, I think it just makes a huge difference.
Amen with that. So we've come up to the hour. It's amazing how fast this goes by. Really, actually, well, we started a little bit late, about 5 minutes late or so. Um, do you have any advice or any suggestions or just something else that you'd like to share with our listeners? Maybe an experience that you had or have just recently had that has really opened your eyes and changed your life in a way.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, just this last year. I mean, really, I guess the year, it doesn't matter where you've come from or what you're doing in your life or what you think you should be doing in your life. You know, there's always somebody somewhere that can help you through that, right? That can like uplift you. We meet people for a reason. I know that, some of the things that I've gone through this last year with relationships or anything like that, like there's a reason for it. It's to help you grow and to learn and maybe even to teach you a lesson, or maybe you're supposed to be in their lives for a reason, for a moment, to help them learn or teach them something. And I think that's the way that we need to look at it, is that everybody's supposed to cross our paths for a reason, and we can take them as lessons, or we can um yeah, we can, take it as a lesson, or, on what not to do anymore, or what can, help us grow in certain ways.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I am a firm, let's see, I don't like to use that word. My version of it is there are no coincidences.
Yeah, no,
It
for
all
real.
happens for a reason.
Hmm. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, damn it, like, did I really need to learn that, God? Like, I 10 times, like, okay, I've had enough. And then he's like, no, no, one more, one more. You need to be stronger. So I'll send you one more.
Yeah. 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 My friend Jessica and I, we joke all the time because she'll talk with me or talk with me about some clients that she has, and of course she keeps it private. I don't know who they are,
Right.
but there's times where I remember probably about a month ago, she called me up, and as soon as I heard her voice, I'm like, "Uh-oh, what's wrong?" And she goes, "Why the fuck are we in this business?" I'm like, "I don't know." And she goes,
Yeah,
"My hell." She goes, "I just had somebody call me, and their daughter is having these manic episodes, and the doctors put her on this, and they didn't even check her first, and it's made it worse, and she's just going on." And I'm just like, there's a reason why we're here. There's
yeah,
definitely a reason why we're here.
yeah, yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. We're put into people's paths for a reason, and they're meant to be put in our paths for a reason. And that's how I look at life as best as I can,
Yeah.
smile and be like, okay, that's all right. It was supposed to happen this way. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I believe that for sure. Yeah.
Well, Brooke, thank you for taking time out of your afternoon on your day off to
Yeah.
spend an hour with me and our listeners. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. You are amazing. You're an amazing man. I'm so blessed to have crossed your path. And yeah, I think that you're an amazing man and you have so much knowledge and strength for the things that you've gone through to share with others, such as myself, to help me through things. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Well, and I appreciate you too. And I'm very grateful and blessed that God put you in my life as well. So thank you. And again, thank you to all our listeners. You guys are the ones that's making this whole show possible. You guys are the ones that's keeping it going. So, so blessed and so grateful. And all our past sponsors and guests, and my gosh, guys, you guys are just amazing. I love and appreciate every single one of you. And we're going to leave you with this as we do at the end of every show. Remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.